Hey guys, Sammy here. Just wanted to tell you guys that this episode coming up on Wakanda Forever was recorded back in March before we took our break. So I apologize beforehand if any of the things are outdated, especially about the awards and things like that. But I hope you enjoy the episode.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Three Fates Decide. This is Mary, and I'm with my two co-hosts, Sam and Liz. Say hi, ladies.
Hello.
Hi.
All right, tonight we are going back to our roots, so to speak. We are going to be taking on a review of sorts of one of the newest Marvel movies to have come out, and that would be Black Panther 2: Wakanda Forever. This is probably the first movie most of us have actually seen Marvel-wise in quite a while, because we all kinda got, uh, I don't wanna say bored of it,
Oversaturated.
but oversaturated with it. I was gonna say, we weren't bored necessarily of it, but we were inundated with so much Marvel
Yeah.
over the pandemic and being on Disney Plus constantly, and it just got to be too much. It was overwhelming for us, so we all stepped back from watching Marvel and Marvel movies and anything Marvel. And like obviously, as you can tell through the podcast, we've gone on to different topics that we talk about. However, I ended up watching it, and then I basically cajoled the other two girls to come in and watch it too, so we could talk about it, because I was like, it was interesting.
You think you know what we're going to talk about.
And welcome back to Three Fates Decide.
It just sounds more dramatic that way.
All right, so this week we are going to be talking about,
But just when you least expect it, we changed the game.
One Will Smith slapped Chris Rock.
I mean, we always celebrated Easter.
Harry Potter the Half-Blood Prince.
So we're going to do another free talk, freestyle thing, no planned discussion.
At the end of the day, only one thing matters. We decide.
We're going to hit the main highlights.
That is the thing, like what we were saying back in that episode.
Quick recap.
Three Fates Decide podcast.
Yep.
I kind of wanted to kind of bring us back to kind of like the roots of how we started, which was like we were reviewing Marvel stuff and everything. That's not obviously what we do all the time, but it's nice to bring that back every once in a while, especially with a movie like this, because it had some very good parts. It had some very odd parts. It had some parts I was like, this is just stupid. And it was there were some parts that were very poignant and it hit me way in the feels. And anybody that understands why is because of Chadwick Boseman, who was Black Panther, may he rest in peace, passed away a couple of years ago. It's just, so it was very poignant to watch the movie and see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought it was a really great send-off to the T'Challa character, to Chadwick. Like, it was
It was.
done well in that regard.
It
Um,
was.
Oh yeah. Before we go further, just as a reminder, like our previous episodes that are of a review type nature, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. If you did not watch this movie, then why are you even listening to this episode right now?
Yeah, because we're
So-
going to be talking about stuff that happened in the movie.
Right. So if you didn't watch the movie yet, then come back and listen to this episode later. But
Yeah.
this is your one and only warning.
Basically. It was just, but it was a very poignant, it had very poignant parts to the movie, especially the beginning and then towards the end. And it was just, it all kind of like hits you right in the feels. At least it did me. And I mean, I admit I bawled through there's a couple of parts of this movie where I cried. I was bawling. So I was just like, no. And just to see what happened, and to see the memorial that they basically give Chadwick in the movie towards the end really
Mhm.
was like that was like, okay, I'm done. I'm done now. I'm just like, Okay, you can't hit me in the feels any more than you already have.
Yeah. I will say, like, the usual that bit in all the Marvel projects where like they have the credits, um, opening animation with the logo. It was actually very touching that they used all images of Chadwick as T'Challa in every
Yeah.
like bit of it.
That made me cry too.
Oh yeah, and the fact that you use purple, which is also a
Yeah.
nice touch. I mean, they did something similar with the Loki series where they used green, you know.
Right.
So, I mean, I did think it was very moving, all those bits in the movie. I mean, I didn't cry like you did, which is a little funny if you've listened
Oh,
to
I
our
bawled. I
if
bawled.
you right if you guys listened to our astrology episode a while back, like I have said that I am Pisces and I'm supposed to be all emotional and everything, and yet I wasn't the one who was like tearful watching the
Yeah.
movie, which is
Yeah, no,
funny.
that's the supposedly cold-hearted Aquarius that's over here bawling your damn eyes out. I'm like, ah! Yeah,
Yeah.
that's me. I admit I wear my heart on my sleeve. My daughter does as well. Poor child.
I mean, I cried also, and I think part of the reason why is because, like, while it's not just a character dying in a movie, you know what I mean? It's the
Right.
person actually died, you know?
Yeah.
So, like, that's really, like, what I was crying about. I was crying about, like, it was almost like mourning Chadwick again.
Yes. I think that's what that was more my take on why I was crying through it, because it was I wasn't mourning the loss of T'Challa, the character. I mean, yes, that was sad that we lost T'Challa. However, I was mourning the loss of, from all the things I've ever read or heard, a wonderful human being, a fantastic actor that had such a long career ahead of him that was going nowhere but up for him. And I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
that is what got me the most. So I'm like Sam in that regard.
So much potential. Yeah. We did lose collectively we did lose a great actor who really could have been so much more, but he did amazing with what he was able to do with his life. So, you know, can't regret that, I guess. But back to the movie. So I have to admit, I think it was pretty clever, I guess you could call it, like how they addressed the fact that Chadwick passed away, and they had and Disney made it very clear in the weeks after he passed away that they were not going to recast the character. So yeah, I would say that like the way they addressed this on screen was pretty well done. I mean, they made it a little ambiguous exactly why T'Challa dies, but presumably there's some sort of problem that happened to him. And to tie back to the first movie, the fact that they needed the herb to hopefully cure what was wrong with him, but of course Killmonger destroyed all the plants, so yeah, which ends up tying into like what happens later in the movie. So
All right. So I guess we'll go into the plot, kind of go through that quick,
Yeah.
and then we'll talk about our thoughts
And feelings.
and feelings on the subject.
Yes, because I have a few.
Yeah.
And I
Me
think
too.
you all probably know exactly where my thoughts and feelings are going.
Yeah. All right. So as Liz mentioned, the very beginning of the movie, T'Challa is dying from some unknown illness, and Shuri is trying to recreate the herb that was destroyed by Killmonger, but unfortunately it doesn't happen before T'Challa dies. And then they have this whole big funeral scene that got me. And then
Yeah, that was a tough scene to watch. I'm
Yeah.
with you on that one, Sam.
And then we push ahead to 1 year later, and Wakanda is being pressured by other nations to share their vibranium. And there's actually countries who are attempting to steal it. And so T'Challa's mother, Queen, or Ramonda, becomes queen again and tells Shuri to continue her research to recreate the herb, hoping to get a new Black Panther that'll help defend Wakanda because she doesn't want, you know, want to give that up. Meanwhile, in the Atlantic Ocean, the CIA and the Navy SEALs utilize a vibranium detector to locate potential vibranium deposit underwater, and they all get killed by blue-skinned, water-breathing superhumans led by his name is Namor.
Namor.
Yeah.
Namor.
Yeah, and the CIA believes Wakanda is responsible for it. Namor confronts Ramonda and Shuri, basically saying it's Wakanda's fault that people want the vibranium, and he basically says that they either have to deliver the scientist that created the vibranium detector, or he's going to attack Wakanda and kill everybody. So Shuri and Loki go, or go and talk with Everett Ross, who was in obviously the first Black Panther as well as Civil War.
Yeah. Broken white boy.
Broken white boy. The other broken white boy.
Another broke white boy. that
And
has to be my all-time favorite line by Shuri. Great, you brought me another broke white boy to fix. And at the time we were like, who the hell was the first?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, we knew because
We knew
Civil War
but
came first, so we
yeah.
knew, poor Bucky. Bucky was getting fixed. But so when they speak to Ross, they learn that the scientist is actually a student at MIT named Riri Williams, and they go to MIT to confront her, and they're pursued by the FBI, which causes like a whole big chase scene, and then Namor's warriors basically attack them, defeat Oki, and takes Shuri and Riri underwater to their lair, whatever they are, and basically Ramonda is so mad at Oki's failure that she strips her title as General of the Dora Milaje and calls for Nakia, who's been living in Haiti since the blip. Meanwhile, Namor shows Shuri his vibranium-rich underwater kingdom called Talakan, and said like he's protected it for centuries from the world, and basically hates surface people, anyone that lives on the surface, for enslaving the Maya. And he proposes an alliance with Wakanda against the rest of the world, but basically very similar to Killmonger. He wants Wakanda and Talakan to kind of attack the rest of the world. And basically says that if she doesn't agree, he's going to destroy Wakanda. So Nakia manages to help Shuri and Riri escape, and then Namor retaliates with an attack on Wakanda, and Ramonda dies.
That was another
She
sad
drowns.
part.
That was sad.
That was sad.
Yeah.
I mean, that one didn't hit me quite as badly as obviously T'Challa dying, which I mean, even though we knew that was going to happen, it's still that his funeral hit me worse than her funeral did.
I think what hit me worse wasn't just like, I think it was more of like poor Shuri is now alone.
Yeah.
She lost her father, she lost her brother, and now she lost her mother. She's literally alone. Like she has nobody. Like that's what got me with that part.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
so
she was thrust onto the throne, basically. I mean,
right.
At that point, she was thrust onto the throne that she never wanted.
Right. Namor vows to return to Wakanda with his full army and basically finish what he started. The citizens of Wakanda relocate and the Jabari Mountains for their safety. And Ross is arrested by his ex-wife, who is someone we've met a couple of times, and that's CIA Director Valentina Allegra de Fontaine. And he's arrested for secretly exchanging classified intelligence with the Wakandans. So she's sneaky. So after her mother's funeral, Shuri actually manages to recreate the herb, and she ingests it, and she goes to the ancestral plane where she was hoping to either see her brother or her mother, but she meets Killmonger. And Killmonger basically tells her to seek revenge. And when she wakes back up, she gets a new Black Panther suit. She is accepted by the other Wakandan tribes as Black Panther, no questions asked. M'Baku wants to just keep peace. He doesn't want to necessarily fight, but Shuri is she wants to avenge her mother, and says that she wants to attack Pelican. So they prepare for battle. Io is now the general of the Dora Milaje. And Shuri bestows Okoye with Midnight Angel armor, which will be a series coming up on Disney Plus, by the way. And Okoye recruits another Dora Milaje member, Annika, to join her. So there's 2 Midnight Angels. And then Riri creates a very close replica of an Iron Man suit to help the Wakandans.
Yes, she does.
So they have basically this very large ship type thing that they use to lure Namor and his warriors to the surface with another vibranium detector. And there's this huge battle, and Shuri manages to trap Namor and brings him to the desert to dry him out and weaken him. And they have this big fight, and Shuri gains the upper hand, but they were going back and forth. Shuri was just a little too cocky at times, and I think obviously her need for vengeance blinded her, and she was going down for a second. I didn't know she was actually going to pull it off, and then she got the upper hand, had the chance to actually kill him, but got a vision of her mother telling him, show him who you are, and she eventually offers him a peaceful alliance, and he accepts, and that's basically the end of it. Namor's cousin Namora is upset about the surrender, but he assures her that the new alliance is basically just going to allow them to eventually conquer the surface world one day, which was always his plan. So Shuri obviously doesn't know that, but that's what his plan is. Riri returns to MIT, leaves her suit behind in Wakanda. Okoye rescues Ross from captivity, and Shuri plants more heart-shaped herbs to ensure that Black Panther will continue in the future. And then Shuri leaves Wakanda, and M'Baku steps up to challenge for the throne. And at the end, Shuri visits Nakia in Haiti, and it's a nice moment where she finally burns her funeral robe. And that was something at the beginning of the movie. Her mother told her it helps the end the grieving process, and she didn't want to do it. So she finally did it, allowing her to grieve her brother. And that's how it ends. And then the mid-credit scene, Shuri learns that Nakia and T'Challa had a son, Toussaint, and Nakia has been raising him in secret. And then Toussaint reveals that his Wakanda name is T'Challa. So T'Challa lives on in his son.
Yes.
Which also got me a little bit.
Yeah. That did, but I wasn't surprised by it.
No, I wasn't surprised either. I figured. I
did too. The minute that Ramonda went to Haiti to get Nakia, I was like, she's got a kid. The minute I saw her, I was like, she has his son. Either he does. But my first thought was, does he know she has his son?
Right. And he did. just for anyone,
Yes.
he did
Yes.
know. In fact, they agreed together, Nakia and T'Challa agreed together to keep him hidden.
Yes. Which I was so thankful for, that he actually did know that he had a child.
Yes.
And I was thankful that she didn't just run away, and
Yep.
when after the blip happened, to come back and just completely hide the fact that he was there, that she'd had his child. I
Mhm.
was so thankful for that fact. I was like, thank God they didn't play it as in, no, he didn't know.
Yeah. Nope,
Or
he
that
knew.
Ramonda didn't know. That
Yep.
Ramonda found out, you know.
Well, right, and that's what Shuri asked. She was like, "Did my mother meet
Yeah.
him?" And she said, "Yes." So, like, that made me happy. It made me happy that
Yes.
I knew, like,
Yes.
that T'Challa, knew of his son, and, that Nakia and her son, Toussaint actually got to grieve him as well. And at the beginning, Nakia was trying to get in touch with Shuri, and I think it was for her to come and meet her nephew.
Yes.
But
I do too. I agree.
before the battle, Nakia said to Shuri, like, just so you know, you will have a home in Haiti. And that it sounds like that's what Shuri's doing. Shuri doesn't want to be queen.
No.
That's not what she wants. So sounds like she's getting a
I
new
don't even
life.
think she wanted, yeah, and I don't even think she wants to be Black Panther.
No, I think she just did it strictly for,
Yeah,
but we'll see what happens in the future.
right. But I was happy to see that M'Baku was hopefully going to
Challenging.
take over.
Yes.
Was challenging. It was going to take over because there was no challenge. He had no challenge,
At least not
because
that we
Shuri
know.
was,
Yeah. But I don't know
that we know
anybody
of.
who, yeah, I don't know anyone who could beat him with that.
No, because Shuri even told him, she's like, I'm not coming.
Yeah.
Because when he walked off that thing, he's like, she ain't coming.
Yeah. She
Now
sends her
now who's gonna
regards.
fight me?
Yeah.
Yeah. She sends her regards. Now who's gonna fight me? And everybody's just cheering. They're like, ain't not gonna fight you, man. You're good. You're king. You're king now. Good for you. Which I really did like that fact. And I do hope that in the next installment, or next time we see Black Panther, that it will be M'Baku as the Black Panther,
Hmm.
because I think that would be quite interesting to see. Because M'Baku is already such a strong, physically strong character already, without the heart-shaped herb running through his veins.
Yeah.
I can only imagine how much stronger it's going to make him.
Yeah.
Yep. But movie is about 161 minutes, which
It was quite long.
it was long. There was stuff that I
It was
think
long.
that they didn't necessarily needed to have in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
that was something I felt too. Like I felt there were points in the movie where it felt kind of slow
yeah.
going.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, objectively, it's interesting, but I guess like my general criticism of the movie would be that I think it suffers from a thing that I'm sure we all noticed in the stuff that we did see in phase 4, which is the shoving everything into one movie/TV show syndrome.
Yeah. And I honestly feel that maybe part of the reason why, at least with this movie, is because like they just wanted it to last. Yeah, like it's they
Mhm.
everyone. I mean, from obviously Marvel itself and you know, Ryan Coogler, like they all wanted this to just be one big thing for Chadwick. So I feel like they were trying to make it last as long as possible as like an honor for him. And I get what they did, but it was just, listen, just the story was there. They just, it just took too long. The only other thing that I would say is the fight scene was disappointing at the end.
Oh God, wasn't it?
Like, you had this whole big buildup, and then, like, when, like, he agreed to a peaceful thing, I was like, "That's it? Like, that's what we got? Okay."
I know. I said the same thing. I'm like, really? She didn't even really kick his butt.
No.
Not really.
Like, when Nomura was, like, ticked off, I was like, "Yeah, I'm ticked off too, actually." Like,
Uh-huh.
not how, but I mean, I don't know. What do I know?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like a slightly related to what I was saying before is a criticism I have of the movie. I kind of felt like there were certain aspects of the movie that were like about um this family, but then there were aspects of this movie I felt like this is not really a Black Panther movie. It feels almost like a intro movie to other characters, which is it kind of is because you got introduced to Riri, who is also supposed to be getting a Disney Plus series. And for people who are familiar with the comics, you already know Riri is a character called Ironheart, and presumably that suit she created towards the end of the movie for the battle. That's in essence like another early version of the Ironheart suit that she's going to end up developing for her character later. And then, of course, you get an introduction to Namor, who is, of course, again, for people familiar with the comics, you know Namor is a very significant character in Marvel Comics. I mean, he was actually a character involved to some degree with Captain America and the Howling Commandos to some degree. And he's also been a frenemy of the Fantastic Four as well. But obviously, in the MCU, it's going to be kind of different because they didn't announce just yet who is going to be the actors playing the Fantastic Four for the MCU. And obviously, they also didn't really get into how the Fantastic Four will get introduced into the MCU. But that's going to be very different as well from the comics. But yeah. So I have that criticism about it. It just, part of the movie just feels like it's just a jumping off point to introduce characters that are going to come up again later in 5 and 6. So
Yeah. It has been nominated / has won some awards. Let's see, it was nominated for 5 Academy Awards, a British Academy Award, 6 Critics' Choice Movie Awards, 2 Golden Globes, 2 Screen Actors Guild Awards, and a bunch of others. Angela Bassett became the first actress to win a major acting award for her role in a Marvel film. She won a Golden Globe, and she won 2. Critics' Choice, I think. Yes. And she is nominated for Best Supporting Actress for the Academy Awards. So we'll see if she wins that.
That would be awesome if she did.
I mean, listen, she was very good in that movie. I mean, and obviously there's been a lot of people who, kind of write off comic book movies. In fact, it almost makes me laugh, like, when I hear, and listen, I'm a huge, like Martin Scorsese and like I'm big fans of like those type of directors or whatever. But like I hate when like they start talking trash about like these Marvel movies and stuff like that, like, that they're not, as good or whatever. They're entertainment. Like, people go to the movies, yes. Some people like the artistic stuff too. Some people just like to go to a movie and not think. That's what I think I love about comic book movies is it's just going to the movie and you just get to enjoy what's in front of you without thinking about it. And,
yeah, exactly.
but like she was so good in this movie. Like I'm happy that she has already won 2 awards and is nominated for another. And I mean, if she wins an Academy Award, that's crazy.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you about like, I mean, we're using Martin Scorsese as a example because he's like one of the most notable people criticizing this,
Yeah, he's
and he's
not the
not the
only
only
one,
one,
but yeah.
but he's one of the most notable ones. That is the thing, is that people who criticize them, like, listen, we do criticize the movies, but we do criticize them for the actual, writing and quality of the movie. Like, there's like certain issues we have, but we still enjoy the whole thing as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
So so we're not hating on Marvel movies. I mean, we still enjoy them. It's just that we do have some things that we don't like about them, especially the more recent stuff.
Going back to the movie. So yeah, I'm interested to see what happens with the Academy Awards, which will be coming up in the next soon.
Mhm.
But going back to the movie again, I liked a lot of it. I did. I liked a lot of it. I thought the when Shuri was down in Talocan and all that, I thought that part was a little too long. Seemed a little
Yeah.
long-winded to me.
Yeah, I agree with that one. So I was gonna say, I thought they could have cut some of that out
Yeah.
quite easily, and it wouldn't have lost the plot of the movie or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will agree. Like, it did make the pacing kind of off.
Yeah, because it's like
Yeah.
you had like that big, that battle basically in Boston, and then it just like completely slowed everything down.
Yeah.
Um, Granted, I understand what needed to happen. We needed to know what, he wanted and what he was willing to, do to make peace or whatever, but like it just went on for way too way too long. Way too long. I did like the whole angle about Valentina Allegra de Fontaine because obviously this is now the third time we've seen her, right? Uh, Black Widow, Falcon and the Winter Soldier,
Yeah.
and now
Yes.
here. So,
Black Panther.
and we know
Yeah.
that she's definitely, I think, gonna. Well, we don't know, but I think she's obviously a huge thing into Thunderbolts.
Mhm.
I thought they already mentioned that she's
She's
the
part of it.
one. Yeah,
She
like
she's
she's
the one that
basically
brings them together or whatever.
like yeah.
But I was happy with this movie to see Michael B. Jordan come back as Killmonger.
Mhm.
That
Yeah.
was nice to see.
Yeah. And there is a little fun fact about that. The way when we first see Michael B. Jordan's character Killmonger in this movie, we just see the back of him sitting in a chair,
Mhm.
and the way his hair is up, it's to make sure he think that it's her mother.
Mm.
And Michael B. Jordan actually told them, he said, "I want my hair to be up." So it's kind of like a trick to make it look like Ramonda's hair. So Shuri doesn't realize that it's me at first. That she thinks it's her mother has come to give her blessings, I guess.
Well, and Shuri said, "Why didn't they come?" Like
Yeah.
why didn't, you know, any of them come? So then obviously when her mother came to her in the desert, that's, what kind of woke Shuri up because let me tell you
Mhm.
something, man. Shuri,
Yeah.
I, and it just shows how much revenge and grief affects you. She stopped thinking
Mhm.
about her people. She didn't care.
Yeah.
She didn't care who was going to die. All she cared about was killing him because he killed her mother. She didn't care about anybody
Mhm.
else. And, you know, it almost cost, well, it cost her a lot of lives, but it almost cost her more people that she loved.
It almost cost her her entire
Yeah.
country
Yeah. I was like so annoyed. I was like,
because
come on, Shuri, you're smarter than this. Like, you're a genius. Let's go.
yeah. Yeah. Well, she was already grieving the loss of her brother. She had never gotten over
Right.
that. She refused to get over that. She refused to even attempt to try to get past. And yes, the grief is always there. Sam, you can attest to this. The grief is always there.
Yes.
However, as time goes on, you learn to adapt to the grief, and you're able to push the grief not necessarily so much to the side, but towards the back of the priorities of list of things that you have to deal with. It's there, but it's not at the forefront of your mind constantly. And that's the healthy way to deal with grief. She was not dealing with her grief. She was allowing it to control her, to envelop her. She was not attempting to move forward from that zone, from where she was in. And then for to name her, come out and threaten her country, and then to kill her mother, then for Namor to kill her mother, she was done at that point.
Mm-hmm.
All she was grief. All she was grief and rage. That is all. That is the only thing that was Shuri at that point. There was no Shuri from the first movie, where she was a younger, happy-go-lucky genius child. She was now just pure unadulterated rage and grief. That's it. And it damn near cost her everything.
Yep.
Well, related to that and bringing it back a little bit to Michael B. Jordan's appearance, I think that's actually the reason why they made the interesting choice of having him be the one she sees in the vision, because I think subconsciously she had the rage building, and that's why he came forward rather than somebody else in her family, because that rage she was feeling, deep inside, and the need to punish somebody for taking the last of her family from her is what was motivating her actions. And the fact that he's a vengeful character, he's a vengeful person, and his conversation with her, that's essentially what he points out, is that, like, you feel it too, like you want this too, like what I wanted. And in a way, he was actually right. That was what she wanted, and at that time. So I thought that was a really, really interesting symbolic visual decision to make.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
No, I agree. It was definitely a symbol of how she was feeling, and
Yeah.
symbolism.
Because Killmonger was the same way.
Exactly.
Only his wasn't necessary. His was still grief. His was rage and grief just as much as hers was.
Oh yeah, he was getting revenge on his father's death.
Yes.
As well as, other, I think, stuff. But yeah, the biggest part was him avenging his father. Again, overall, I did like the movie. I do think it was a little too long. They could have definitely cut at one part off, and the ending battle, I just feel like wasn't epic enough. Especially when you compare it to the first Black Panther.
Yeah.
But definitely hit you in the feels, and I thought was a very great send off to Chadwick as well as to Challa. And overall, I did like it. Not as much as the first one.
Yeah.
The first one I thought was amazing.
Yeah.
But I still like this one.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was good.
Yeah.
I liked it. I wasn't crazy about it. I still didn't like the fact that they ended up having Shuri go under as Black Panther and become Black Panther. I personally would have rather have actually seen either M'Baku do it or Okoye.
Or Nakia.
Even though I know she became, or Nakia. Yeah, one of them. I understand that Okoye and becomes the Midnight Angel, one of the Midnight Angels, and I love that for her. However, I think she would have kicked ass. Her or Nakia would have kicked ass as the Black Panther. And I think that would have been personally, I think it would have been a better choice.
Yeah.
Than Shuri. But I mean, I can see why it had to be Shuri, but at the same time, I still don't agree with the decision that it should have been Shuri.
Well, and I'm just wondering if it was just like a one time, like is she gonna continue to be
Yeah,
Black Panther going forward? Or
right,
did she, now that like she left Wakanda and everything, she's done? Whoever becomes king, like
right,
if it is M'Baku, is he gonna become the next Black Panther?
right.
So like
And that's what that's kind of like my hope, is that whoever becomes king or even queen
yeah.
of Wakanda becomes the next Black Panther, becomes the next protector. And that I just don't think Shuri is the right person for that role.
Yeah, she's the brains behind the operation.
Exactly. And I'm not even saying that as the actress Letitia Wright. I'm not even saying that as her, because I'm saying Shuri, the character, is not the right person
Yeah.
for that role.
No, I agree. I agree. Yeah, that's why I'm interested to see what happens going forward now.
Yes. I am too.
Yeah.
I would love to see I would have loved to have seen Nakia become Black Panther.
Badass.
That
Yeah.
would have been so freaking cool. I mean, I understand why she didn't, because her life is no longer in Wakanda.
Right.
So
We'll
we'll
see
see.
what happens.
I guess like one last thing, I'll mention that I thought was kind of an interesting decision, and I do appreciate it, is like the fact that with Namor, they gave him and his people a different origin from the comics, because the thing is that, like, first off, it would have been way too similar to the whole Atlantean thing with Aquaman, and I guess to a certain degree, like, Avatar, with like the recent Avatar movie as well, but mostly the Aquaman thing. But also, I think it gives it an interesting dimension having the people of Talcan being, in essence, Mayan in origin, because it does give them more of a motivation as to why they hate on the surface dwellers so much, which is a thing, of course, with the comic version of Namor and his people, because there has to be a reason for the beef, and it isn't. I mean, granted, the whole thing with like pollution affecting the ocean is a huge problem, and it genuinely is, but that almost seems like, is it really enough motivation? Because there are people, like, on the surface that don't like the ocean pollution either. So that doesn't seem to be really enough. But having an ongoing resentment of basically colonizers and conquerors trying to take things away from you, and an opportunity to get revenge for mistreatment, I think that does make it more interesting motivation. And I'm going to be curious to see how they're going to use Namor and his people later in the MCU. Because, now we know he definitely exists and they exist. You can't leave that as a dangling thread.
Yeah.
And join us next week as we continue on with our true crime series. We're going to be talking about American serial killer Ted Bundy, as well as going into a little bit of the movie starring Zac Efron that is currently on Netflix. We'll talk about that all next week.
Did you like what you heard on our episode today? Well, then feel free to come back and listen to us again. You can find us on all different streaming sites, including Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Deezer, iHeartRadio, Spotify, you name it, we're there. And if you really like us, feel free to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at 3 Fates Decide. That's THREE Fates Decide. You can also email us at 3fatesdecide@gmail.com. And check out our website at 3fatesdecide.com to find other episodes, information about your 3 hosts, and all of our other links. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time on 3 Fates Decide.